This is Tax Pro Nation, the home of independent tax professionals. Find community, maximize your earnings, and live life on your own terms. I'm your host, Jeff Dolan, Vice President of Pronto Tax School.
And I'm your co-host, Andy Fry, founder and CEO of Pronto Tax School.
As a tax professional, you take pride in giving the best service you can to every client you serve. Too often, your good work goes unnoticed. Too often, your story goes untold. No more. Unnoticed and Untold ends now. Welcome to Season 2, the Season of Story, where it's all about recognizing and appreciating you, the hardworking tax professionals that inhabit the mysterious land known as Tax Pro Nation.
In this episode, we are going to be hearing from Ernesto Delacruz. He is the Endurance Award winner from our 2020 My Tax Career Story Contest here at Pronto Tax School. And he is actually from Lima, Peru. He came to the U.S., paid for his own college education, sleeping only 4 hours a night, and established his tax business over 27 years in his community. We are very excited to share this conversation with you. Let's jump in.
Hello?
Ernesto, it's Jeff Dolan and Andy Fry at Pronto Tax School. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good.
Awesome. So good to hear your voice.
Yes.
Hey, Ernesto, it's Andy.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today.
Great.
So what are you doing on a nice Monday?
Monday is, well, I don't even know what we're celebrating, but it's a day off for the kids.
Well, how old are your kids, Ernesto?
I got 17. He's a senior. And I got a 21 and 24.
Wow.
23.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm pretty much done. Not quite. No. Yeah.
A few more years.
2 more years. Yeah.
Better than 5-year-olds.
Oh, yes.
We have 5-year-olds.
5? Gosh. My oldest one at 5 was already playing drums.
Nice.
Cool.
I played drums for 25 years.
Okay.
I played also keyboard and bass, but he got concentrated on drums. Then my daughter did play saxophone as well as the oldest one. And then now the youngest one plays saxophone, but he moved into the drums. So I have noise all week at home.
Got a full band. I love it.
Yes.
Well, Jeff plays bass too.
Yep.
Okay. We actually had a group for children. So we used to go to different churches and motivate the children to go into music. So they will ask me, please teach me. I said, no, talk to your leader or your pastor and have them hire someone that will teach you. But I got them started.
That's really great.
Yes.
And what area are you in?
In Long Beach.
Long Beach. Cool.
Yeah, Ernesto had the awesome story about how the Bixby Knolls area of Long Beach has, changed just a lot over the years. And Ernesto's kind of, found a place there and stuck with it through all the changes. And you're still there to this day, right, Ernesto?
Yes. I grew up in a Jewish community back in Lima, Peru. And, what a coincidence that I actually moved or started into the tax business in Bixby Knolls. Insurance before, back in 89. And then opened my own business in 93. And I got stuck here in Bixby Knolls, which is a great area.
Yeah, what do you enjoy about that area? And also maybe for people that aren't as familiar with that area, like what's changed about it over the years?
Well, it's, besides being a Jewish community, about 50 families that live in the area, synagogue half a block from me. It's diverse, and mostly the young adults, they're 40 and basically high income. So it's a good area.
Nice. And Peru is not really a country that a lot of people hear about too much. And how did growing up there and then moving here to the States, what did you take away from your experience growing up in Peru, and how does that help you today to serve your clients?
Well, basically, my parents were merchants, and so they traveled all over Peru. So they were in business. My mother met my father. He had a liquor store. And she convinced him into selling the liquor store and moving into the real estate. So they they got involved in that, and they were doing great. So I was helping. And at the same time, again, she was, merchant selling religious items, like for Christmas. And so I grew. Since I remember, I was 7 years old. I remember my mother in business, and I had to bring her the everyday lunch and dinner. So at age 7, I was already taking the bus. And so basically that got me exposed and involved into the business.
Wow.
Nice. Would you make her like some good lunches and good dinners? Like you have some pretty good cooking skills or?
I didn't do the lunches. The actual maid did it.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yes.
You got some help.
Yes. But being involved in the business, and then of course when I took the lunch or dinner, I will stay there and I will, sell along with them,
So you had a maid in Peru.
Yes.
Wow. So what was that considered normal, or were you well off?
Well, you have to be part of the mid class, and so them being, ambulatory merchants, they would travel different places. We needed to have a maid to cook and do the house and kind of watch and all that.
Oh, gotcha.
Keep an eye on you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So what made you guys move to the States?
Well, my oldest brother came back in the 70s, and then, of course, education, even though we have free education in Peru, it was whether competing with 10,000 people, only 1,000 will make it to school. And so admissions test, basically. So out of 10,000, only 1,000 will make it to college.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's easier here. Education is free. And so I came when I was 18. I was working and going to school at the same time. I had to pay for my own education. So I tell the kids or anyone that they have it, made. I mean, it's free here. In my case, I had no FAFSA, no grants, no Pell grants, nothing like that. I have to work to pay my education.
And what did you study in college?
Accounting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you already know that you wanted to get into the accounting field in some way at that time?
Well, when I was taking my accounting classes, income tax and accounting was only one field. Right at that year when they split it and separated into different fields. So basically during the courses of accounting, I already knew how to do tax.
Interesting. And they split it, meaning into the auditing and the tax. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. So
Okay.
accounting was one field, and then bookkeeping was another, and then taxes was another field.
I see. Okay. So you chose the tax route of those options even when you were in college.
Yes. And of course, then getting involved in insurance, real estate, that gave me, make my decision to stay with the tax business. Although my main business was insurance at that time, the tax business is slowly, with the law changing, start basically becoming part of my everyday, life.
Right. Okay. And with insurance, were you doing like property insurance, or how did the insurance business play into what you do now?
Yeah, I was doing car insurance, and I was doing very well. But the competition and, the big companies, the big investors, made it more difficult. So tax business, because it's a service, and it requires a lot of knowledge that basically, like you were saying on all of the webinars, that our knowledge, it's what does keep us in business. And you're reminding me of my first broker that he said when I was young. He said that my knowledge, because being young, my knowledge will overcome my youth, because there's a lot of older people that will, underestimate me because of my youth. So my knowledge will prove that I'm capable of solving problems. So it's important, very important. You have that knowledge.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it. So then the tax business kind of gradually, as you were doing the insurance as kind of your main field, gradually became kind of more and more of a focus. And I think a lot of people, when they get in the tax business, Ernesto, they are, how would you put this? Like maybe not as patient with that process, and maybe don't have like a main thing that's supporting them as they build up a client base or as they sort of build up their knowledge. What would you say to somebody that was kind of looking for the tax business to like happen faster, as opposed to like even somebody like you with accounting and tax education, with some sales and business development, it still kind of took you a little while. Like how could a tax pro that's in that situation be patient enough and do the right things to make it their main thing eventually?
Yes, even though they both kind of went along, the tax business became more demanding, and of course, more knowledgeable you are, you're better positioned in the business. So, and as you were explaining on every class, you have to basically you have to get knowledgeable, and you have to be able to show the client that you can solve their problem. And so slowly start, the business, of course, with the IRS demanding more from us, it slowly positioned me in a better place, basically.
And Ernesto, you have a little bit more skills growing up in an entrepreneurial family to have the right mindset to allow you to have that kind of staying power. Can you tell us a story about how you met some challenges in entrepreneurship and had to kind of stand your ground and stick with it?
Yes. Like I mentioned earlier, growing, very, young, 7 years old, was already being involved in the business. And I had my mother with the selling. And so that, helped me a lot. But also seeing my mother struggle during her childhood and adolescent years. She lost her mother when she was like 12 years old. So she had to find a way to evolve and stay alive. And so that taught me a good lesson. I was determined. When I first came in, I was 18. I was determined already while I was working in a factory. I was determined to retire from a regular job. And I set my mind. I set my target, and it happened. Through the years, I watching my parents work hard, 80 hours a week, and that's what I learned. Even my mother said once before, us being from another country, it's not that we have a disadvantage, but we have to work harder. We cannot live the American way. We have to work hard, basically. Just so me like that, working 80 hours at the office, maybe, working smart, sometimes not hard, but working smart, but you have to spend time in your business.
I would say that the immigrant work ethic is the American way. I mean,
yes. A lot of people, funny because I used to listen to the business channel on AM station.
Okay.
And they call a person, how do you call a person that speaks many languages, multilingual?
Yeah.
How about 3 languages, trilingual? How about 2 languages, bilingual? And how about the person that speaks only 1 language? And I'm sorry if I'm rude, but they said an American.
Yep.
So I go to Europe, you see people speaking different languages. And that's one thing that I learned. I speak a little bit of Tagalog.
Cool.
A few words. I work in the hotel industry, so also. And so I gain a little bit of knowledge in languages. So I speak a little bit of Tagalog, Arabic, and how to greet the client, how to win the customer by just saying, magandang umaga, which is Tagalog, good morning, magandang hapon, magandang gabi.
Right.
And so to gain that respect, because how it took the time to learn my language to greet me. So you have to take the time, to be able to gain that customer. And one word or one phrase can do it.
Yeah, I love it. I remember when I was first working with my dad, we served a pretty heavy immigrant clientele, a lot of immigrants to the U.S. and just learning, I remember internalizing myself, seeing that, I would measure myself as am I working as hard as an immigrant would?
Yeah.
And if I was not, I would say, well, the people that we were serving, it's they didn't really have anybody else that took that attitude towards them. And even on a language basis, I love what you're saying, Ernesto. We would speak the gringo Spanish, but think of the other person that they're usually in a spot where they have to try to stretch themselves to speak English. And just by those small gestures and having the same type of work ethic that people have, it's almost like an unbreakable bond that you have with people. And I think one of the things I noticed, Ernesto, about business, right, is that it's a lot about getting focused on the other person, like your customer, and yes, we achieve what we want to do we can get financial success and different things being in business, but it takes a lot of focus on the other person, right? The customer.
Yes.
And so what we've noticed is people that grew up with their parents being entrepreneurs is they kind of understand that in a different way. And so what would you say is like the number one thing that you learned from your parents that's helped you be successful in the tax business?
For my parents, working hard, be loyal to your customers. And one thing, the average person that works, 9 to 5 on a regular job, they have a boss. And us being entrepreneurs or self-employed, yes, you are on your own, you can work your own hours, but basically the client is your boss. And I tell my clients, yes, the client is my boss. And of course, I'm a believer, I'm Christian, my whole family is Christian, my kids go to a Christian school. And I said, yes, we are committed and we serve God and we have a person to respond, a God to respond, but we also have a client that we have to respond. And so I tell them, I'm open 24 hours. And that's true. You can call me anytime, and I'll be there to answer your call, even if I'm outside. All the calls from my office go directly to my cell phone. So I'm available 24/7 if they have a question. And so that makes a difference.
Andy, I'm seeing a theme here with successful tax entrepreneurs. They're open 24/7.
Yes.
They're available for their clients.
Yes.
Whenever they're called on.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic because it's like we like to kind of have it both ways, like we like to be able to travel. And Ernesto, you're mentioning you have kids, that are in bands and different activities, so you want to be able to attend those things. I mean, I think with regards to the American dream or just trying to do anything in this country is that there's always a cost that you have to pay.
Yes.
There's always the things that if you want to go the extra mile for your clients, they're going to reward you by staying loyal to you, just like you've been loyal to them. So I think that is a theme that we've seen is that service, that personal service, that being there of our most successful members are doing those kind of things. And Ernesto's definitely in that category. So what was like the toughest time with regard to building your tax business specifically? What was the toughest challenge that you ran into?
I was going to interrupt you in your conversation. The doctors. I got several doctors that I'm representing, and it's a total different level. They're very knowledgeable. I compare myself with a doctor. If they're dedicated 24/7, I have to dedicate myself to my clients 24/7. But they're demanding. They're very demanding because their career is demanding.
Definitely.
So you have to be ready for that gentleman to answer basically every question. And so I reached that. That was my desire. First, I was able to reach the nurses, director of nurses, and those nurses had doctors related, family. One of the director of nurses, her daughter is a doctor, and her son-in-law is a doctor. So I was able to, that's one of the toughest, I will say that because that was my desire, to be able to serve professionals and be able to be up to their level.
That's awesome. Yeah, because you have a specific level of expertise, and doctors are the same way. They have a specific level of expertise.
They're challenging clients. Yeah, he's exactly right. So a lot of tax pros specifically do not want to work with doctors specifically because of that reason.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of questions that it can become a long question session. So I know what you mean. That's definitely an achievement to be able to serve doctor clients and other high-level professions, at that level. So I can definitely agree with that. How did having kids and raising your kids in your faith and the family aspect of it, how did that play into your tax business?
Well, my kids are always a priority. When me and my wife got married, we determined that if wherever we go, they go. And if they can't go, we don't go. So I have to basically adjust my business to my lifestyle and being there. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, yeah, private school. They have it easy. It's not necessarily true. The school is more demanding. And they demand the parents to be there. So basically, those parents have to give their time and effort, and the children have to see that. And so imagine if, most parents, because they're working 9 to 5, they can't be there. And I feel sympathy for them. But I have to be in every game. And if I was there in every game for the oldest one, I had to be there for my daughter And I had to be there for my little one, who is actually taller than all of them. He's like 5'10".
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm only 5'4".
Nice.
Yeah. It's demanding, and so I had to adjust my business. And my clients understood that. Not that I wanted to be, give a disservice to my clients, but they knew. They knew, and I told my clients to call me, otherwise they would not be able to see me. And so they knew that they had to call me, and they knew that I was dedicated to my family. They knew as a musician, I was involved in that. So they were able to accommodate me as I accommodate them too.
Mutual respect.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, they had that mutual respect.
Yeah, because they understand what you're going through because they're on call 24/7 at times.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, I'm sure that if you develop the relationship, that it sounds scary opening up your schedule like that to your clients. But if you lay down the right rules and understanding and respect there, I'm sure that your clients don't abuse that.
Exactly.
Well, occasionally you get a few.
April 14th at midnight. Yeah.
I get a nice inflow of calls for sure at certain times. But what would you say your musician, experience and how important that was for you to be a musician? How did that play into your business and entrepreneurial career?
It helped. It was my therapy. A lot of people go to their psychologist or their therapist, and that was my therapy. Again, also my music had a priority, and sometimes I have to be there to practice. And so, but that was a therapy for me. It helped me a lot. And of course, being knowledgeable in music, people, they respect that. Parents in school, when they see, are you Elon's father? Say, yeah, he plays music. How does he play music? Or how did he learn? And my son being 5 years old when he played music for the first time, they asked me, I said, Jacob plays music? I said, yes. And who taught him? I said, I taught him. And he speaks Spanish? Because all my three kids speak Spanish and they write it.
Nice.
And so I said, and they speak Spanish? He said, yes. Who taught him? I said, I taught them.
Wow.
Oh, wow. And so parents, being in the private school, I'm a minority. I'm in the 1% there. And so they have a respect. They see that and they see my effort working. And they say, you're thank you for coming. And I'm always supportive with music. I'm there every time. So they see that. And again, my clients see it too.
And so do your neighbors, if you've got you, and then it sounds like, which one of your kids also plays drum, Jacob?
Yes, Jacob, he's 24 now. He was playing drums since 4.5. And so he was playing, they will hear the noise and they thought it was me. I said, no, it's my son, Jacob.
That's good. So did your neighbors, how does that work because that was always a nightmare. My parents were like, no, you guys can't get any drum sets. Or it might have been an excuse though, now that I think of it, but it was like, you can't make too much noise. How does the noise part of that work with the neighbors?
Well, usually he comes back from school around 3, 4 o'clock. Some people are barely leaving their job at 3:30, 5. So there's not that much problem. He doesn't play at night. After 7 o'clock, no music. But we had some gigs at home, like my daughter's 16th birthday. My friend brought his whole gear, and he was playing. And we never told the neighbors about it, but nobody complained. Everybody thought, because my friend plays really good guitar, and so they thought Carlos Santana was playing. Yes, and I have a video.
Yeah, so it's almost like you should have charged them. Should have. That was like a free show they got.
Yes, so nobody complained because the sound system and the keyboard and everything, perfect. And so loud music, but it was perfect. So everybody said, "Wow, I thought Santana was playing." And my neighbor behind me, because my house is back to back with my neighbor, she was the teacher of the drum corps for my kids before, and she said, "All along, I thought you had a nice Carlos Santana playing on the back."
Nice. I like that. So what do you see, given your experience in the insurance business, the tax business, as well as coming from an entrepreneurial family, like we talk about in the training sessions that you come to and that we work with you guys on at Pronto Tax School? It's a pretty rapidly changing business in a lot of ways, the tax industry. Would really be interested to hear, kind of given your experience and your point of view, Ernesto, what do you see as the main things that are happening in the industry that we should really be paying attention to as tax professionals?
Yeah, I heard that before, and I think I want to repeat that. Not the government, but the actual system want to see us out of business by having more requirements and more of everything. I don't blame him. Like they say, only the knowledgeable will survive. And so it's a very challenging. There were no requirements requirements now. So it's more difficult, but it's a challenge, and who beats the challenge is going to survive. And I'm really thankful, and I'm not making this up. When I started going through your webinar, it actually encouraged me. It's like my pastor used to say, when you go to church, okay, you go to church to refill your battery. So basically, that's very important. You go to your church to refill your batteries. We have this webinar to basically refill our knowledge and batteries.
Wow, I appreciate that. Thank you, Ernesto. That means a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely. I'm very thankful. This year, I feel better than last year. I have more knowledge, and that's thanks to you guys. Again, I'm not making this up. I rarely miss any webinar, so definitely empowered by your teaching.
Thank you. That really means a lot. Thank you, Ernesto. What are you most excited about in the tax business for the future?
Well, when the new law changed a couple of years back, I was intimidated. But again, with the knowledge that I acquired, I'm excited. I'm thinking about evolving and get more education and able to meet the challenges. Many changes are coming. I can see that. There's more changes, and I feel more prepared. So it's not as difficult. I think knowing and wanting to learn will help you succeed in this business. You just have to stay on top.
And are you seeing any changes among the medical field that impact your job in the tax world?
Well, yes, I saw many of them being part of a corporation. And so whether we want it or not, we have to be knowledgeable about it. The Uber and Lyft, even though they won this new proposition, many of the self-employed will require to become a corporation. So we're looking to do, and that's one thing I'm looking to be more knowledgeable. You have to be knowledgeable in how to do an LLC.
So you're saying, that's interesting. So educate me a little bit. So you're saying the new proposition in California that Uber and Lyft won, it's creating a situation where the employees are forming a corporation themselves? The employees?
The workers, right?
The employees, basically, right. You get a 1099. The way it shows is California will give you a W-2. The federal will provide you a 1099. So you'll be an employee through the state, and you'll be self-employed through the federal. But the government is actually also changing and forcing you to become a corporation. I got clients that were on 1099. I have a writer that his employer, so-called, or his provider, require him to become LLC. And so either you have to learn, because with doctors it's different. With doctors are working as a corporation, and they get, or as an associate, business associate, and they get a LLC form where you reported it, and then on your 1040. So basically, we have to get knowledgeable about it. That's going to happen.
Wow. I didn't realize that. That's pretty, yeah.
Yes. So the doctors are already, well, in their case, they get the form, the LLC corporation form. But on the Uber and Lyft, I'm assuming that eventually will have to become LLC.
So there'll be an S Corp, taxed as an S Corp?
Yeah, it depends.
I will say so, yeah.
So what's happening with where they get higher income? Then yes, like there's some of these people are running, multiple cars, they have like different, they're renting their cars out on Turo or whatever, and they're really like operating a business. And so, yeah, we've been seeing like tax pros that, like you said about the whether it's requirements, Ernesto, or just like the knowledge that the clients are forcing us to have a lot more knowledge by the things that they're doing.
Well, some of them are requirements,
right?
Because the trailer drivers, semi-drivers, they were self-employed, they were making cash, and they were forced
Good point.
to get a tax ID or employer ID number. So they were forced to become a corporation. So some of the requirements are just a self-employment 1099. Now they have to become corporation.
That's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
So like, who is requiring them? The IRS? Or the tax pros are saying, hey, you need to do this to help you earn the right amount of money? Or like, who's actually compelling them to do that?
Well, for instance, I got a writer that was a freelance. He used to get 1099, but they will not give him jobs. I think the way he mentioned is if he has 40 clients, has to or less, something like that. I can't remember right now, but
interesting.
He cannot work as a sole proprietor.
Right.
Okay, because if you get cash or you're on a 1099, you can be a sole proprietor and that's it. But this client cannot, because I told him, I said, you can work as a sole proprietor. I said, no, they're forcing me to become LLC. And so he has to become, otherwise they will not give him jobs.
So you're saying the other people in the industry, like an Uber
customer
or Lyft, the person hiring that person is saying, hey, you need to be a company or I won't hire you.
Exactly.
And the reason they're doing that is because they want to pay them without having to 1099 them?
They might get a 1099, but it will be under the business.
It's more so that they're protected from employment taxes.
Right.
And having the person be characterized as an employee as all that pressure.
Like in insurance.
Is that federal, like across the board, or just California?
You know what? I'm not too sure. But even in my insurance business, I had to get a DBA and work as a sole proprietor. So they would require me to have a DBA, work out of, one of the other requirements was to have a front office. I could not work out of my house. So that was another requirement. But so far, they haven't bothered me. But I was thinking already, I said, they might be asking me, like the providers, like the employer, in this case, the business, will require me to become LLC. They wouldn't want to work for me. They wouldn't want to provide me business or provide me an appointment to work for them if I don't become LLC. And I think it's because a lot of people are becoming self-employed, because that's how I advertise. I said, in this new era, this new normal, you have to become self-employed. So I thought it was just about having them work as a self-employed, a freelance, but it's not that simple. And not everybody will accept you as a DBA or sole proprietor. They require you to become LLC.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I kind of saw this trend happening a few years ago. As you know, if you've been kind of following along our adventures, which I know that you have, is that think about the average, quote unquote average, because nobody's maybe truly average. We're all different. But the self-employed person that's trying to navigate all of the stuff that we just talked about, you need to have at least one person like Ernesto in your world to even have a shot of like, I mean, just like it's tough enough to make some money as a self-employed person, let alone when you've got all these requirements and all these complexities and all these, if you do this, then this and that. So, I mean, I think it just really shows the value of a professional like Ernesto. And I'm wondering, Ernesto, as we go towards wrapping up this fun interview, is how does your story, because that was what stood out when you entered our story contest, is like, man, this guy's an incredible story coming from Peru, putting yourself through college, all the things that we've just talked about. Do your clients, like, are they, and with your music background and kids going to private school, there's just so many elements of your story that are appealing. Do your clients know your story, and how does that factor into your client relationships?
Yes, they do. Any aspect. I told you about the real estate, I told you about insurance, and I told you my kids going to private education, buying their home. Thank goodness my house is paid off. I was determined to pay off my home in less time, not in 30 years.
Right.
Because I hate the word mortgage.
It's got death in the root word, right?
Yeah, mortgage means mortality. I said, am I going to die after 30 years? No. I said, I want to pay it off in less. I paid it off in 17 years. And so I tell my clients, I say, you have to, and I put it on my Facebook, you have to create a write-off. You can't just settle for a regular employment. You have to become self-employed. Create a higher tax write-off, buy a house, refinance. Don't do it in 30, do it in 20, do it in 15. If I get the client, I refer it to another person. But at least I'm telling my client, and many of them have become property owners because they knew. I said, you're paying rent. I multiply it. I give them the advice for free because I get more clients. You're paying rent for 12 months times 10 or times 30. How much money you lost? I said, buy a home. So we got to teach our clients. They could become a potential seller, a potential agent. They don't work on commission, but they can refer us clients. So that's an agent for you working for free.
Oh, this is really great.
Love it.
It's been really fun connecting with you, Ernesto.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, great. Well, do you have any other parting words for tax professionals that might be listening?
Well, maybe not diversify, but be able to give that knowledge, like I was mentioning, be able to give that knowledge, encourage your clients. Like I mentioned, my whole life, it's a perfect example and it's a living example. And I tell my clients that they have to diversify within themselves, within their life, with their kids. Their example will follow, their legacy to their kids. And why do we see buy a life insurance policy that will go to your kids, and they will buy a life policy for themselves, for their kids, and the chain will continue. Their grandkids will buy a policy for their kids. So now the economy will get strength.
It really is a good theme to end on. Become the type of human that you're meant to be, and it will ripple through your family, your clients' relationships, just that self-awareness of who you are and what you want to accomplish to grow as a person is really going to impact your life. So thank you for that nugget, and hopefully everybody listening got encouraged by something that Ernesto said or that we said. So
I'm hyped up now. I want to go play some drums. I want to do something awesome. I want to have like a concert in my backyard and
come over to my house, man. We play music all the time. Nice.
Love it. Thanks, Ernesto. Really appreciate your time and the good words. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you both.
Okay. Take care, brother.
Bye.
Bye.